So we're all on a learning curve here. So my name's Derryanne Hubbard, and I'm with Century 21, and I'm doing a virtual open house of one of my listings from my home computer sitting at home. And sitting right beside me is actually the owner of the house, Steve Onsorge. And I thought, who better to tell us the very interesting story of this house than the owner himself? And I will make one small disclosure. Steve is a licensed realtor, but wanting to sell his house, he hired a professional, like everybody should do, and hire a professional to have their house sold. So welcome, Steve. Thanks so much for coming on. And I'll just let you begin your story of this house, because it's such an interesting story of where you lived before, why you bought this house, and what you bought, which is completely different than what you're selling.
Yeah, that's a great way to start the story, actually. So we were fortunate to live next door, actually, to the place where we live currently that we're trying to sell. And chatting across the fence, as you know, neighbors do, we began a conversation about purchasing this property from our neighbors. And our vision initially, when we first started that chat, was to buy the property and fix it up and perhaps look at selling it, or even potentially keeping it as a rental property. And I'll get to what happened after I tell you that when we bought this property, it looked nothing like it does today. It is actually a 1920 house, but the house had probably a fair bit of 1960s upgrades of that era, and lots of, I don't want to be unkind, but stuff that just would not be suitable for today's buyer. And so we bought it with a lot of a vision for, do we put some lipstick and rouge on it and make it appropriate for perhaps a rental, or do we actually dig in a little deeper? And the next part of the story was that we decided we were going to move into it. And so when a person makes that kind of an emotional investment in a decision, sometimes budgets get thrown out the window, and all of a sudden you really start to personalize a property. And that's very much what we did. We changed our design plans, we changed our budgets, and we basically took a house that was, forlorn would be a good word, and we have completely upgraded it. It is literally a brand new house on a 1920s foundation with a 1920s shell, really, and the rest of it is all new. We redid the electrical, all the lighting is redone, we redid the insulation upstairs and down. The basement wasn't finished prior to this, so that has been all finished. There's new framing. We took the attic and actually created space in the attic for storage and put one of those pull down ladder entrances to it. Could be developed, but that would take a little more effort. And we really just decided that we needed to make a space that would work for our family. And so we took what was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, and we changed it to a 4-bed, 3-bath house. And there was a lot of fun in doing that. And
so I'm going to take my mug off the camera and put some pictures up that you can walk through, just to let us know what changes you made.
Sure. So there you can see a picture of the kitchen. So obviously there was a wall actually separating that kitchen space from what was the living room, and we've made it open concept. So you can kind of stand in the center of the living room space and see out the back door. You can also look towards the front space. There's a den at the front of the house where the entrance is, and there's custom cabinetry and original hardwood floors in the living room area. We were able to source the same size of fir floor to replace the kitchen floor. And obviously we did things like heated tile in the bathrooms, and of course everything is re-drywalled. The ceiling's been re-drywalled and stippled. There you can see a picture of the master bedroom. We changed the original bathroom to be an ensuite, and obviously today's buyer likes that. And to save space, we put in a barn door rather than having something that opened into the space. And other things that we did, I think a really significant one, before I tell you a little bit about the basement, is we actually put a center staircase into the house to get into the basement. The original house plan had an open front porch and an open back porch, both of which decades ago were closed in, but the stairs there was a trap door in the rear porch that had almost like as if it were going down to a cellar, and that was the access to the basement. And we knew obviously that we would never get furniture of any size down that staircase, so we had a brainwave to open up the center hall and create a stairwell, and have basically just made storage and mechanical area out of where the old staircase was, and we've actually closed it in with a floor to make usable first floor storage. The picture that you're looking at there is the basement. That originally was it was storage, but it was unused. It wasn't really habitable space, and so it has new flooring, new framing, lighting, electrical, drywall, the whole 9 yards. There is another bathroom, a full bathroom down there, as well as 2 bedrooms, some office space, some storage space, and there's some really good square footage down there.
Yes, yes. And you did show me pictures of what it looked like when you first bought it and started gutting and ripping walls, and there was lath and plaster. And so I think the renovations that you've done are, those really high priority renovations that people want when they're looking at character homes. Because a lot of people love the character home feel, but they're so nervous. The electrical, the plumbing, the wiring, all those different things had water issues, because you did a renovation also because of the high water table in East Hill. Tell us about that.
Okay. So to make a long story a little shorter, if you're local to this area, you know that there's a lot of underground water in Vernon, and East Hill in particular has a fairly high water table. And so a lot of the homes, especially here in Lower East Hill, have sump pumps and floor drains and all that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that we did to basically to ensure that this home would be trouble-free is really the way I should put it. We actually redid the perimeter drainage, what do they call that? The drain tile, and actually had the city, the connection that goes from the house out to the middle of 39th, where it meets the large storm sewer, that line has all been re-sleeved. So it's virtually brand new from the middle of 39th into the house, and then all of the plumbing inside the house, as well as the perimeter drain, is all renewed. And that's part of the reason why the yard is a little less pretty than what we would normally like it to be. We had to dig it all up, to be honest. And so that was a big feat. But again, it's those things that are, sadly, the stuff you can't see is the most expensive stuff when you're renovating. And so, what's behind drywall, most people can't see and don't care about. Well, we do care about it, but you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, and therefore it leaves a lot of unknowns. And so, to reflect on what we took out of the house, we had to take it basically down to bare bones and then build it up again. And so that was a lot of fun, a ton of work, a really big chunk of change, to be honest. So about that.
The other thing I want you to talk about is I put the picture of the lot up. Tell us about it being a double lot and the potential for this backyard behind the house.
For sure. Okay, so if you look at that picture, you see that at the top of the picture is 39th Avenue, which is then has 25th Street coming off of it, and then you don't see the numbers, but the space where you can see the road going down to where the single garage is at the back, that's actually 38th Avenue. So it's a very deep lot. It's a double lot here in Lower East Hill, and it goes from avenue to avenue. And so many of the homes off of 39th already have driveways. Ours never did have a driveway because it went from street to street. And so there's lots of parking at the back. There's potential for parking in the front. We're a little bit on the lazy side, so we tend to park on 25th Street and walk down the sidewalk to our back deck. But no judgment, please. What's interesting about this lot, because it is large, it is zoned RM1, and that means that the city will allow us to have 4 dwelling units on this property. It's a little bit challenging at this point to imagine how to do 4, because it would basically involve this house having a suite, which again is a conversation not to be not for tonight, but there's lots of potential with this property. You could have a carriage house. You could have, sorry for the slamming door. That was a teenager. I know. We could have.
We're all home and we all got this stuff happening with kids and dogs and phones going off.
100%. But yeah, there's potential for a separate house, a carriage house. It could be, you could create an attached duplex to the house. And I'm just trying to think what other options there might be. Potentially you could have a house with a suite and then strata title the property. That would be the way to, for example, if you wanted to divide the property and sell it, that would be the way to do that. And, or you just build it and you have income property on your own land. You're saving the cost of the land, basically.
And I think that the house opens up so many possibilities that you could stratify it and actually sever it and sell it off. You could put a carriage home with whatever, a studio in the basement or an office, and then have a space above that for your in-laws or parents or returning children, or just rent it out. And the nice thing about it is all the legalities are taken care of. You're not going to ever have to worry about the city somehow shutting it down because it's not a legal suite. So I think for investors, it's a tremendous opportunity. But I also think for homeowners that might be saying a little bit high on our price range for a single family, but hey, let's get a carriage home up there and a full suite up there. And now we have a wonderful income stream coming there.
Yeah, for sure. It's part of the reason why we chose to buy the property, actually, because we knew that potential was there. And, whether that's a decision somebody wants to make out of the gate or if it's just part of their kind of personal insurance plan, 5 years from now, this is what we're going to do, or we're going to build that extra house that are newly married children or, the parents who are wanting to downsize. Now you've created the opportunity to have them, in a brand new place on land that you already own. So you're not paying that land price twice. And that's where I think the great value is.
Yes, I completely agree. Well, I thank you so much, Steve, for coming on and walking us through that history of the property. 2500 39th Avenue. It is still available. Feel free to do a drive-by. As you can see, it's right on the corner of 39th and 25th. And should you decide you actually want to get in the property, I'm happy to send you all the information and data first, so you can check out room sizes and look at the pictures. Steve has given me floor plans so you can see the floor plans. But when you're ready to actually go in, Steve and I have discussed how to keep everybody safe, he and his family and the potential buyers and myself. So we're able to do that, and we're able to do a showing when you're ready to go in. But I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to see the house virtually and try out some new technology and see how we did. We did okay, Steve. We made it through.
Thanks, Derryanne.
So thank you so much, and call me for more information. I'm easy to find online, and we'll wait for the buyer to step forward. Thanks, Steve, and take care for tonight.
Have a great one.